I think now the floor is yours, and I will give 1 minute each, and I hope if the first speaker or contributor appreciates the presentation, we will endorse as it is, and then the next will continue directly on the points. So let's really hit the point, and then so that you can address directly to the panelists or a general question, so that we can jointly share and address. So the floor is yours. Then I will give from my right hand side, and then I will come, but I will balance. Don't worry. So let me see hands. 1, 2, 3. So 3 hands from this side, please.
My name is Adnan Hassan. I work at IFPRI. James has touched my question, actually. I want to ask the panelists, what is the elementary school coverage of the mobile pastoralist communities? And what are the plans to increase that? Are there any targets for that? My second question is, what are the perceptions and the views of pastoralists to build their own resilience and to build a sustainable livelihoods?
Thank you. Second, I recognize, yeah. Can you stand so that if...
Yes, I'll stand. My name is Baba Nebe. I work for World Vision, East Africa Region, Food Security Advisor. My comment is on one of the P's that you mentioned, the private sector. And I want to appeal to anybody who is in the private sector here not to lynch me after my contribution. There's a general perception that you should visualize a balloon, big balloon, that has an inlet valve and an outlet valve, okay? So there are people pumping air into a balloon, and there's a perception that the private sector is at the outlet valve and pulling out the air. So we have to be very cautious that private sector is not seen as, we do not see the relationship between the private sector as some kind of cash transfer from donors to the private sector, that the community, that we put in very, very innovative ways that the private sector actually invest in the community and not extract what we are putting into the community. I don't know whether my fear is founded.
My name is Collins. I work with CAFOD as policy advocacy advisor based in Nairobi. My question goes to James and John, and it's about the response to the aspect of the early warning and early response. Are you confident at the moment that with the current measures, both at the national and the county level and also at the regional level, that the early warning systems that are there in place could lead to early responses? I ask this since from the experience of the 2011 drought, there was a lot of early warning, but very late response. And lastly is to appreciate both James from the National Drought Management Authority and John from IGAD for their role in bringing in the different stakeholders in some of their activities. I really appreciate that they bring in the pastoralist leaders and even the voices from the civil society groups. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Last from this side.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Mohammed Mansouri from FAO, and I've been privileged to work with almost all of the people on the podium on the Horn of Africa. So we're starting from what John was saying, which is that the droughts hit regionally and generate impacts at the regional level, because when it hits, people migrate and are go from one country to another and generate, and lead to many problems and issues and conflicts. A lot of the solutions are regional as well, and I think this is some of the what in the dialogue at the regional level. What is emerging is that trade solutions in terms of all transboundary issues, coordination, and the role of IGAD, but even getting much farther in terms of coordination of investments. At the two sides of the borders along the trade livestock routes are something of the very interesting, things in the Horn of Africa that you don't see much in other regions. And I want just to point to those innovations that make really a difference and may even lead to, more in terms of, for example, taxation of, livestock products at the regional level. And then you will have incentive mechanisms that are aligned with the mobility, with the whole issues that are absolutely regional. So in many ways, the regional coordination is not only something that we can do or not do. I think it is something that is emerging as compulsory if we want to deal with the drought in the Horn of Africa. Thank you.
So I will come to this side, and I need to see at least some ladies to participate, because I have been cautioned to balance it in terms of gender. So I think I encourage you. Of course. 1, 2, yes, 3, and 4. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Mike Jones. I'm with IUCN's Resilience Task Force. And I want to throw out a couple of ideas related to this idea of a resilience analysis platform. One of those comes from what Luca was saying about how he and some colleagues were more or less able to predict a disaster. That suggests that they're using their experience as managers, they're reading patterns, they're being able to interpret those patterns and say something bad is going to happen. That kind of thinking is very useful when you're dealing with complex adaptive systems. Being able to extract that in a sensible, simple way is a good way of laying a foundation for resilience analysis. The second one I wanted to pick up on was what Mohammed had to say about learning from the mistakes of the past. Many projects have been undertaken. Standard development conservation projects are based on the assumption that we can actually engineer systems, that people will behave in predictable ways, that nature will behave in predictable ways. They don't. So what I'm suggesting is that if you apply a resilience lens to the analysis of these past programs, that might give you a different perspective on why they failed and give you different ideas about how you might implement them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. No, yeah, you first then.
Thank you, Minister. I took that as a personal invitation. My name is Michelle Winthrop. I'm from Farm Africa here in Ethiopia. I'm interested in opinions from the panel about to what extent we feel in the region that we have understood the resilience of wider systems, economic systems, critical ecosystems that a lot of people rely on, food systems, financial systems, and whether there's enough learning happening across the governments in the region for planning for the implications of drought for those systems. There's been a lot of talk about the implications for resilience on the poorest of the poor, and that's as it should be. But I think there are second-tier effects that it'd be interesting to know more about. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Talaun from Concern Worldwide. My question goes to John and James. It's about actually disaster education. Because when we talk about building resilience, it's not just about infrastructure and all the other things. This past few days, we have been talking about the systems approach. We need also to talk about worldview. What worldview do the communities share in the Horn of Africa? Like Islam and Christianity being the most dominant ones, pretty much shaping our worldview in many ways. There are studies that indicate that, if communities perceive their perception of God, perception of reality on the ground, including disasters, it does affect how they respond to disasters as well. It's not that we don't agree disasters are bad. Yes, everyone agrees that they are bad. But if are they predestined, and can we respond to them, and how? So what are we doing with our education system? Especially in Asia, there is a good deal of research that indicates about disaster education, how communities can respond. The ABCs of responding to drought, if it happens, say, next year. So do we have that in place? I would love to hear from from you two on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the last.
Thank you. My name is Abraham from Concern also. I do have two questions. The first question is an issue of, we all know that this region is very volatile and vulnerable, where there is conflicts and lots of things are going on. So access to humanitarian response as well as access to different intervention is in some area very difficult. Even though early warning information and other anticipatory methods have given us information, even the appeal to intervention is sometimes very late and very difficult to intervene. So the context of this Horn of Africa is very volatile, very vulnerable. So not only that, the chronic food insecurity and the transitory food insecurity cross each other, and because of the high level of susceptibility to people, even very slight shocks are making very big difference upon the community. So the interlinkage and the integration is very, very key from our experience with government as well as UN. All actors on the ground should have comprehensive planning. So what kind of comprehensive plan do we have in the countries that which are referral linkage? For example, in concern, like the malnutrition somewhere is addressed, and after that, the connecting this family with a sort of productive safety net of government is working very well in some areas of the country. So what kind of interlinkage and comprehensive type of planning is being applied? I think I want to have an experience from somewhere else from the panelists. The second point is an issue of urban resilience. Urban resilience is really, it is a pity to say that, it's nothing about urban resilience is totally talking about from the whole discussion of this big conference. The context is quite different from the overall resilience situation of the countries, because we are talking about arid areas, pastoralist area. It's because the context is different from that of all over the country. So similarly, we have to discuss and talk about the issue of urban resilience, and it is a good recommendation for conference organizers for future to see such kind of urban resilience, where there is no anticipatory method. So these are some of the points that I would like to raise. Thank you.